So Jesus, he's pretty great, right? And so you've been following him, and he said, now you're going to do greater things than these. Doing the works that Jesus has been doing, but no, not only that, greater things than these. Baffles my mind, but you guys go like, what? Like, this is in the Bible? Yeah, look it up. It's there, John 14. Greater things than these. Now, who wants to do great things in life? All right? Come on, everybody knows. This is an American kind of thing. Right? America's a great nation. We all want to do great things. Some of you guys want to be great athletes, right? Some of you want to be great dancers, cheerleaders, right? Okay? Some people want to grow up and they want to have high aspirations and goals, be great engineers, right? I went running yesterday around Town Lake. Austin is a weird city, is it not? You run around Austin and it's like, man, this is a strange city. I think Austin wants to be the greatest city of weird. Is that true? Yeah, Stevie Ray Vaughan, we've got an idol in him, and we're like, that's kind of weird, isn't it? All these people doing funky things around the hike and bike trail. Weirdness, greatness, whatever. We all have this desire to be great. Okay, now, when I think of great as a Texan, because I'm a native Texan, proud Texan, I think of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, okay, all right. I understand. It's a little ironic, isn't it, though? That the great Lone Star Dallas Cowboys, the greatest stadium ever with the biggest jumbotron that could probably feed Africa, right? That they're 0-2. Anybody know that? Who's keeping up with the NFL? It's a little bittersweet, isn't it, right? Some people love it, and some people are like, man, the greatest team is blowing it, right? What's the deal? Actually, if you look at ESPN, all these columnists and talk show radio, some of your dads might do that. My dad loves that. He comes back with all this information for me when we're running together. And he said, do you guys know the reason why the Cowboys are suffering? Now, people have their opinions, right? The number one reason, according to a lot of the columnists, is not they need to get rid of Romo or they need to get rid of Wade. There's always that going on. They say this, a general consensus in the locker room is that there's no leadership. He was a great player. He did great things. He had amazing stats, and his tongue was hanging out like a dog, and he could dunk like none other, but he had to become a great leader in order for his team to follow him. Okay? I'm talking about greatness today. Everybody wants to be great. I want you guys to travel with me. Can you travel? Kind of get in your heads and go back 2,000 years. Can we do that? I know it's hard. You're like, man, I can't go back last period. You want me to go back 2,000 years? I'm going to help us. Okay, 2,000 years, we go back. Same thing. Universal deal in the Middle East with the Israelites and the Jewish people. Young Jewish men wanted to be great rabbis. Say rabbi. Now say Ravi. Ravi is the Hebrew word for rabbi. Rav is great. E is my. So essentially it says my great or my great one. Who's great one? Disciples, right? Now say Talmud. Now say Talmidim. Talmud is disciple, Talmidim is disciples, plural, okay? So my great, the disciples, the Talmidim have a great one. Everybody in the Jewish world wants to become a rabbi. Jesus has a lot of interesting things to say about other rabbis, Pharisees, doesn't he? If you guys remember in Matthew 23, he talks about this one group, and every rabbi would have had one of these. In fact, every young Jewish boy, would have had one of these. So all of you would have had one of these, all of you young men. This is called a talit. Say talit. All right, it looks like a blanket, doesn't it? Yeah. Very special blanket. You wrap it around like this, and it's a prayer shawl. Okay? And not only is it a prayer shawl, it's a prayer closet. You wrap yourself in it, and you are reminded of God's covering, His presence. So when Jesus says go into your prayer closet, He's talking about the talit. Now the talit is so important. In Matthew 23, Jesus makes fun of some of the rabbis because they have long tassels at the end, and the corners, of their talit. So say kanaf. Kanaf is the corner. In Numbers 15, God commands His people, put these tassels on the corner, the kanaf of your robes. So they made these, and this is called a tzitzit. It's a hard word to say. Say tzitzit. That is a tassel. And so these guys, these rabbis, had long tassels. Why did they have long tassels? We don't really know this until you actually go into it. They have long tassels because according to tradition back then, these guys, according to Zechariah 8, Malachi 4, they thought that the Messiah would come and he would have healing powers at the edge of his garment, at the kanaf. And so when the woman who's bleeding grabs Jesus at the edge of his cloak and grabs, she believes, right? He has healing powers in his kanaf. It sounds weird to us. That's what they would have believed. And so a lot of the rabbis were like, I want to be great, right? I'm already my great, so I want to be greater. And so a lot of these guys had long tassels, and Jesus is like, you guys just want to be known, right? You just want to have long tassels. Sounds, we're like, well, that's strange, isn't it? To them it would have been normal, very normal. Now, go with me with this. What is this? Tzitzit. Very good, very good. Now, if you can see this, it's hard for you guys to see it from there. There are 5 knots in here. 5 knots, ring a bell. 5 books of the Torah, which is the law. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. So 5, everything has meaning. There are spaces in between. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is, 4 letters in the name of God. Yod, He, Vav, He, which is Yahweh. So Yahweh, Torah. Right there, already in just one little part of this tzitzit. Now, if you count these strands, there are 8 strands. 8 plus 5 equals 13. Hold that number, okay? Now, this is where it might get a little confusing, but bear with me. In the Hebrew world, there is, every letter has numerical value. So, like for us, A equals 1, B equals 2, and so on. So, the actual numerical value for a tzitzit comes to, anybody know? Sarayot, Tav. You're like, what is he saying? That is 600. Tzitzit means 600. So 600 plus 13 equals? 613. Now, some of you guys know this. How many commandments are there in the Torah? 613. So when you have your prayer shah, as a good young Jewish rabbi or a young disciple Talmud, you would hold the edge. You would cling on, you would put it over you, and you would say, Father God, I want to follow every 613 commands. And it would be this prayerful meditation throughout the day. Why? Because they wanted to become like their rabbi who was trying to teach them what it means to be like their God. All right? All that is very important. If you were a young boy, all right, you start school at the age of 4 to 5. Like you do here. But it's called Beit Sefer. Say Beit Sefer. Beit Sefer means house of the scroll, okay? So 4 to 5, what you're doing is you're learning the first 5 books, the Torah. You're not just learning, you're memorizing. You're not just memorizing, you're getting it into your soul, into your bones. And so you would go, and these Torah teachers, these one set of rabbis, they would teach 4 to 5-year-old boys up to the age of 12. And they would have all of this memorized by the time they were 12 years old. Intense. Then you would go, you'd work for your father, and you'd apply all these things that you're learning in the fields. Or maybe your father works with stone. So you work with stone, and you'd apply all these things with working with stone. Right? And the women also, they went to school as well. They would learn different portions of the Torah in different parts of the text. Now, a young boy who wants to be a great one, he wants to be a rabbi. After Beit Sefer, if he's good enough, if he's qualified, he goes to another level of school, which is called Beit, say this with me, Talmud. Beit Talmud. That is the house of learning. Still taught by these rabbis who are these Torah teachers. And what you do then is you start memorizing at the age of 12. The rest of the Tanakh, which as you guys know by now is the Old Testament. All of it memorized. It's there. Can you imagine? Memorize this thing. The entire Old Testament. Now some people couldn't do that, some could. A lot of people could. But the rabbis would notice there'd be a special young man. Man, he had something going on, okay? And he wanted to be a rabbi. So maybe that young man could make it to the next phase. The next phase is called Beit Midrash. Say Beit Midrash. That is the house of interpretation, which is beyond just what you're learning and studying and memorizing. Okay? So all the first 2 schools were all about very, very normal teachings that the Torah teachers would teach them. Beit Midrash was outside the box. Alright? So Jesus says stuff like this. You've heard it say, Do not murder. Anyone who murders is subject to judgment, but I tell you, anyone who is angry with a brother or sister is subject to judgment. Jesus is teaching with authority as they call it smicha rabbi, a special rabbi who has authority to teach outside the box. Okay? These guys were special, so every young man was following, and they wanted to find that smicha, that authoritative rabbi, and they wanted to get soaked in his dust. They wanted to consume every single word that he was saying. That's part of it. That's an expression, to be covered in the dust of your rabbi. So you follow so closely that you're just being smothered in dust, drinking in his every word. Now let's say one of you young men, you're qualified and you're getting there. You know, and everyone's like, yeah, man, you might be a rabbi, you might be a great one. And so you go up and you say, let's say you go up to, I don't know, let me give Rabbi Joseph. Why not? Rabbi Joseph. Okay? And you like this guy, and you follow him, and you're watching him teach, and you're watching him do all this stuff around the community, and you want to be like him, and you study him, and you sit at his feet. Then one day you say, I think I have what it takes. I'm going to approach him. All right? It's the big day. So you go and you approach Rabbi Joseph. You're sweating, it's nervous. This is the day that you've been waiting for. You're 15 years old. This is it. From 4 to 5 on, you've been practicing for this special day. And you say, Rabbi Joseph, may I follow you? Yeah, well, you know, okay. Do you have what it takes? Recite to me Deuteronomy 15 through 20. And again, you're like, no big deal, man. I learned that in kindergarten. That's easy. There it is. Okay. Now, recite to me every priestly function in Leviticus. Anybody know those? Oh, man, that's 3rd grade. No problem. Boom, 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 boom. I got it. Next thing. There are 17 prophecies in the book of Amos. Name how they apply to Torah. Oh, okay, I can do that. 1, 2, 3. So you get down to 16, and then the 17th one, you're like, oh, what's the 17th one? I don't know it. He looks at you and he says, well done. You've done a great job. I respect your learning. But you cannot follow me. Go home. Become a good farmer with your father. Study Torah. Go to synagogue. Practice Sabbath. Be a good Jew. But you cannot follow me. Pray that someday your young son will learn what you've learned, and maybe he will become a Talmud. Maybe someday he will be a great one and become a rabbi. And most young men walk away sad. It's kind of like being a lottery pick in the NFL draft. We all want it, right? But come on, look at me. I'm not going to make the NFL, much less the lot. I'm not going to be a lottery pick. Most boys don't make it. So they walk away sad. But it's okay, because their life is still pursuing God.